to call out this latest atrocity, this direct attack on Hazara people in Afghanistan, who were targeted because of their ethnicity and Shia religion in Kabul, directly targeting Hazara women at an educational centre. A truly inhumane and barbaric attack. Monsters targeting school children. A total perversion of religion. I want to make a few acknowledgements. Firstly, family of 56 people killed in this shocking attack, including a niece of an Australian, family and friends of Australians, and others who were seriously injured. We are so deeply sorry for your loss, and we stand with you in your grief and share your outrage at this attack. Now, last time I stood here and spoke to you at a vigil, sadly just like this some months ago, I was a member of the opposition. I'm pleased and relieved now as a member of the government on behalf of Andrew Giles as well. I spoke to him this afternoon, and he's asked me to convey his message in a moment. But firstly, just a few words. Your community has more people in Afghanistan than any other electorate in Australia, and I think the largest Hazara community. A large share of the 71,000 Hazara people, or thereabouts, who now call Australia home. Thank you for your contribution to our community, for your support for democracy, for your love of education, and for your contribution to make. Captain, Afghan and the Hazara communities. I'm so sad and angry again at this senseless violence, and we gather tonight here in southeast Melbourne as part of a national vigil held right across Australia. But of course, while making building lives here in Australia, Hazara people remain connected with Hazara, Afghanistan, and friends and community links, and it reverberates across the world and affects us all. Now, as a member of the government, I stand with you, as I always have, and will continue to speak up against this violence in support of compassion and generosity in Australia's migration program. I've been asked by the organisers to say a few words on migration issues, which I'll do in a moment, but firstly, he asked me to read you his message formally on behalf of the Australian government, and I'll read that now. The recent senseless attacks at the Kaj Education Centre in Kabul saw dozens of innocent school children lose their lives. Everyone, regardless of gender or belief, deserves education and living. My deepest victims, loved ones, and I recognise that this is an essential community, the broader Afghan diaspora. This weekend, and his commitment to supporting the Afghanistan, commitment to petition those who have been found to be owed our protection on temporary protection visas, keep this promise and meet our commitment as soon as possible. There are 26,000 now over the next 4 years under the human rights and additional 5 every year. Ethnic program is steadfast in its time. Now, I don't talk for here in solidarity, not for long political speech. I've been asked by the organisers to touch briefly on a few issues in response to those urgent requests from the that we heard earlier. First, to confirm, the government reaffirms its stance random attacks. Of course, Afghanistan is not for millions of its citizens of all different backgrounds. A direct deliberate at Hazara in Hazara neighbourhoods, schools and facilities. And here in Australia and across the world, including at the United Nations. Ultimately, only nations through its processes can formally declare a genocide. But it is clear that people are being killed just for being Hazara and Shiite. Now, Australia does not recognise the Taliban as a government. But if they claim to be the government of Afghanistan, then they must security with genocidal intent against Hazara people. We denounce these attacks and all terrorism. Secondly, as the Minister made clear, already engaged extensively with leaders groups in the Hazara community and will continue to do so, especially here in southeast Melbourne, but right across the country. The government stands with you and Labor stands with you, shoulder to shoulder. And thirdly, some brief remarks on visa issues as I close, because I know these latest attacks concern the fears, desperation for Hazara people to be reunited with family and friends. Now, as you know, the government total mess from the previous Liberal government in the visa system. That is a sad fact. Nearly 1 million visa applications we found backlogged in the Department of Home Affairs. 1 million. It is a broken department with thousands of staff cut across 9 years. The government did not, but we are taking responsibility to clean it up. We've already employed 500 new visa processing staff to start clearing that backlog. Down tonight, visas or Chev visas, firm our commitment providing permanent protection in this country for genuine refugees. Like you, I know the impacts for people. I talk to you every day in the community, in my office. I wish it had happened, but we are making good progress. It is not a simple thing administratively or legally, and has to be run through the budget process as well as there are financial implications. I'm pleased to say that we have now settled within the government on the solution, which we're testing with the Law Council of Australia, the refugee experts and others. We'll hope to have more to say soon after the budget in just a few weeks, but please be assured this will happen as soon as possible. I understand the daily impacts for people on TPVs. The ridiculous system of travel authorisations, which I hope we can soon get rid of, and your inability to sponsor your families and visit your families, especially in Pakistan. The citizenship delays and the family visa delays are also being addressed. The Minister has deemed them formally a high priority now to clear the backlogs. I'm also pleased to say there are about 4,000 or 5,000 people left in this country who applied years ago for the visa for their husbands or their wives and their children. They were actively discriminated against by the Liberals. And the Minister has formally committed, and I'm pleased to tell everyone, that he's now reviewing Ministerial Direction 80 to get rid of this blatant discrimination that is affecting so many Hazara people. This was a direction, for those who don't know what Ministerial Direction 80 is, most people here would. This was introduced by Peter Dutton and Scott Morrison to say that anyone who arrived by boat got the lowest priority for family union. And so it means that thousands of people, including thousands of Hazara people, have missed their children growing up as their visas sat in the department under the Liberals, going nowhere, never being looked at. We will fix that. Again, I stress, and we work together, it can't happen overnight. There are simply so many visa applications there, but we are making progress. And finally, on the humanitarian visa intake, Over 220,000 people have now applied for those places, and we expect many more when all of the applications are typed in and assessed, possibly up to 300,000 people. We are, as I said, applying additional resources, 500 extra staff already into the department. And I point out that when Kabul fell over a year ago, the Liberals provided not one extra staff member to the visa processing area. Not one. The sad reality is, forms, as you know, because you fill them out for your families, are sent in by hand and they have to be typed into the computer before we can then make the assessment across all of those applications. We are starting to make progress, and once we've inputted all those applications, then the government will be in a position to assess them against the priorities for those who've applied and have a conversation with the community and community leaders about how we then proceed. I hear the community's call for 20,000 or so more places, and I acknowledge personally the case for an increase. I also acknowledge, as community leaders have said to me, the understanding that even with additional places, not everyone will come to safety in Australia. There are simply so many people at risk, and Australia must be part of a global response, working with other countries. But as I've said in the Parliament, and this is my personal view that I'll keep advocating for, as a country we need to be generous in our approach, given that special history with Afghanistan. Personally, I would like to see additional places allocated with appropriate priorities for women and minorities most at risk, including, of course, the Hazara people. None of this can or will happen quickly as you or I would like. Sadly, it's just not possible to do by next week, but more resources are being applied. The Minister is committed to the humanitarian stream, and I'll keep speaking up for our Hazara community and the need for Australia to be generous. We stand in solidarity, and it is up to Australia and the entire world to speak up. Only the global community can stop terrorism and stop genocide. Thank you very much.